In 2020, we've had a lot of drivers who've come from practically completely under the radar to very well-loved people. Although he may not have achieved loads yet in his career, the man I'm going to talk about today has acquired practically the whole of Brazil fanboying over him. Yep, you guessed it, today I'm speaking about Felipe Drugovich, who appears to be Brazil's next hope of a Formula 1 star. Felipe Drugovich RONCATO was born in Maringá, Brazil on the 23rd of May 2000. He competed in various karting categories in both Brazil and Europe, and won the Junior Menor and Super Cadet category of the Campeonato Sul Brasileiro de Kart, and finished third in the 2015 WSK Champions Cup, beating out current F3 drivers such as Clement Novalak, Sebastian Fernandes and Frederic Vesti. So not a bad start, although you'd think he would perhaps do another year of karting, maybe take the title in something to interest junior teams before he made his car debut. Anyway, for 2016, he'd make his car racing debut in the ADAC Formula 4 series for Neuhauser Racing. Picking up a podium at Zandvoort, Drugovich would finish 12th overall in the series. Not that much to say about it. He also competed in the MRF Challenge that year, finishing 4th with a win in Dubai and a further 3 second places. In 2017, Felipe would drive again in ADAC Formula 4, this time with the Van Amersfoort racing team. He had a much better campaign, finishing 3rd with 7 wins and 9 podiums. He also made a handful of appearances in the Italian F4, European F3 and Euroformula Open series, of which he won 2 races. He also again raced in the MRF Challenge that year, where he won the championship by nearly 80 points. In 2018, Drugovich set his sights on the Euroformula Open Championship with RP Motorsport. He absolutely dominated this series, winning 14 of the 16 races, and still finishing on the podium in the ones he didn't win, to win the title by over 140 points. So far, I've been nearly 100% positive about Drugovich in this video, but in 2019, his year was about as positive as Alex Albon's hope for a 2021 Red Bull seat.
Why you bully me?
Racing in the new FIA F3 Championship with Carlin Buzz Racing, Felipe did beat teammates Logan Sargent and Tepe Nattori by quite some way, but overall only managed 1 points finish in the year, putting him behind Bent Viscal in the standings. He also made an appearance in the 2019 MACAU Grand Prix, where Sophia Flörsch managed to keep her car out of the skyscrapers of China this time, and where Felipe had a pretty average 16th in qualifying, a retirement in the qualification race due to a crash, and 24th in the final race, last of all finishes unless you count Alessio De Leda as a racing driver. Finishing 16th overall in the F3 Championship, you wouldn't have thought Drugovich would be that high on the list to graduate to Formula 2 next year, judging that people such as Jake Hughes, Max Futrell, Liam Lawson, Richard Vishaw, David Beckman and Bent Viscal did not get the promotion despite finishing ahead of Drugovich in their F3 standings. But sure enough, it was announced that Felipe would drive for MP Motorsport in the 2020 FIA Formula 2 season, which begins to make you wonder if he is just a pay driver, given the performance in F3 the previous year. In my opinion, I think he definitely should have done another season in Formula 3, but hey, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Although basically contradicting everything I've just said, I think it's safe to say Drugovich really surprised us in Formula 2 this year. With multiple race winner Nobuharu Matsushita as his teammate, people were not expecting him to be that far up the grid, but he showed right from the start that that was not the case. Austria. Practice comes around and Drugovich finishes 6th, just 3/10 off fastest man Yuki Tsunoda, and 7/10 faster than his teammate. In qualifying, he surprised everyone, putting in a lap which would let him start from 2nd on the grid. He would drop back quite a lot to 8th in the feature race, but still not a bad debut. With the sprint race, he would start on reverse grid pole due to finishing 8th in the feature, and had what I think was one of the best drives in Formula 2 history, leading every lap from start to finish to win the race. Certainly not bad. The next couple of races in Austria and Hungary were quite quiet for Drugovich, finishing out of the points at both Spielberg races, but with a solid 5th place at the Hungaroring. Picking up some good points at Silverstone, he would then head to Catalonia, where he probably would have won the feature race, but MP Motorsport had different ideas, and put teammate Matsushita on a better strategy, letting him win. And the Brazilian Drugovich army were, let's say, not so happy about this. However, he then made up for it in the sprint race, where he took his second victory in Formula 2. Then there was Spa, where Matsushita's questionable defence tactics ended up in a quite big crash between the teammates, of which the FIA decided it would be a great idea to disqualify Drugovich for this. He then finished out of the points for the next few races, although he did take home 4th place in the Mugello feature race. Then came the overly hyped Formula 2 finale in Bahrain. It was here where Drugovich had another completely dominant drive, taking the lead on lap 1, and then completely disappearing into the distance to win his first feature race in Formula 2. He then picked up 8th in the sprint race, and could have done much better in the Sake feature race, had there not been another one of He Who Shall Not Be Named's beautiful defence tactics. But since He Who Shall Not Be Named got a penalty for this, Drugovich did in the end inherit P3. He then ended the season with another 8th place, putting him 9th in the overall standings. It was then announced that Drugovich would move to the very successful UNI Virtuosi team for 2021, of whom we...
So the question that's on literally nobody's lips right now is whether or not Felipe Drugovich can make it all the way to F1. I mean, he's the same age as Yuki Tsunoda, and they both picked up the same amount of wins this season. They've both come from F3 in 2019, and neither of them drove for a great team in their F3 campaigns. But here is where the similarities end. In F2, Yuki Tsunoda was the top-placed rookie, proving to the world exactly why Honda placed so much faith in him. But Drugovich? Well, he's got the family spare parts business on the side of the car, but that's about it. As we're all made painfully aware, every time we see Nikita Mazepin's face, you have to have money to reach F1. Of course, if you've got a metric ton of talent, then that's a bonus, but ultimately there's a reason that Mazepin got the seat and Ilott didn't. Drugovich is clearly a talented driver, no doubt about that. Taking 3 wins in his debut season with a less than average team behind him is no small feat. But ultimately, if it's just a medium-sized family business behind him, then it's not going to be that easy for the Brazilian. I mean, Tsunoda had Honda behind him, Schumacher had Ferrari behind him, and Mazepin had Vladimir Putin behind him. But hey, maybe the family business isn't as small as it seems, and maybe they do indeed have the money to get young Felipe to F1. But otherwise, it's a slippery slope to climb for Drugovich.